Hey guys, BJ's Very Basic Bible. Let's hit up Ruth. Share my screen here, right there. Make my melon a little bigger. All right. The Bible. There we go. We're at the end of Ruth chapter 2. When I say the end, people, whoa, the very end. The chapters aren't too long. Maybe that's just me. Isaiah 40, the voice of one calling out, clear the way for the Lord in the wilderness. Here we go, right there. Okay. Because I was looking at Matthew. John the Baptist is called a voice of one crying out in the wilderness. Okay, you can tell the verse, clear the way for the Lord in the wilderness. John the Baptist was the one calling out in the wilderness. Kind of strange, but hey, Matthew uses different wording, but that's not our Bible study. Got plenty of those in the Bible study alongs. Early Matthew prophecies. Ruth chapter 2. Here we go. I haven't done this in like 2 weeks, maybe longer. I was at really busy at my church. Went to 3 different Thanksgivings in a row. Then I got really sick for like 3 or 4 days. Then my wife is sick, and it's good and it's gracious. Everybody's, so hoping to get back into things. But what's good about this is I'd started reading Ruth. I read Ruth chapter 1. I read Ruth chapter 2. I read 3 and 4. I listened to it, while recording it. I would look at different places in Ruth. That's good, right? I'm starting to learn about it. I even listened to a Bible study over it. Okay, to kind of get some stuff, and it kind of helped. It brought some stuff to mind that I had talked about. But therein lies the problem. Very Basic Bible is everything in the Bible before the theology. I started going, oh, well, this means this. Well, that means that. So then when I would read it, I would, like over here, verse 2, and Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, okay, said to Naomi, what does that mean? That means this, that, and the other. And I would start going over things I had already thought about instead of reading it with fresh eyes and going, well, why did she say something to Naomi? I really don't know. Let's go look it up. She said to Naomi. That is kind of a strange example, but I want to do Very Basic Bible with fresh eyes. This is very basic. This is beginning. People never read the Bible before. People are like, I'm not sure. Okay, those people, they could get a teacher who says, here's exactly how everything is. Listen to my every word exactly how. Or they could have a teacher who is reading it with them. If you get told not only exactly how to do something, but then you get moved exactly how to do it. You get helped every step along the way. The person basically does it for you. You're not going to learn. But if you have somebody doing it with you, where you were having to do it too, Okay. So with fresh eyes, I love this. I'm going to learn some stuff myself probably. All right. I'm going to start reading chapter 2, verse 1. And whenever I get down to, I think, let me see, go down. 17, 18, around verse 19, I believe. I haven't gotten to there just yet, so, okay. All the way back, okay. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband, a man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain, following one in whose eyes I may find favor. And Naomi said to Ruth, go, my daughter. So Ruth left and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. In case you forgot, between verse 3 and verse 1, the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. I know whenever I first started reading the Bible, even today when I still read the Bible, I won't even remember stuff from the beginning of verse to the end of the verse. I will have gotten to the end of a sentence whose name was Boaz. Wait, who is Boaz? Okay, I got to go back and read the beginning again. Now Naomi, wait, what does Naomi have to do with Boaz? Wait, who's Boaz? That's how bad it was for me. So imagine reading this, and then a second, there's like 2 sentences in verse 2. Verse 3, you got more sentences, and then Boaz, who is, and you're like, huh, that sounds vaguely familiar. Then your mind starts trying to think of why is it familiar, and your mind then, this is what happens to me. My mind that suddenly gets crowded with wait, is this familiar? Wait, my thinking suddenly starts going, huh? And then I can't tell what I'm even thinking. I tried to with my eyes. Wait, that looks familiar. I start looking up here at verse 2, verse 1, but while I'm doing it, my mind is like blocking my eyes. Maybe I will see Boaz here and it'll click, but usually not. Then I'll start going, wait, maybe, and this all happens in like 2 seconds. Your mind gets cluttered so fast. It's, those of y'all who were super duper readers when you were kids, you love reading today, you're able to recall facts while reading. You're going, BJ, come on now. This is, yeah, duh. All right, good. Those of you who are like me, who can't read 3 sentences and put them together and have to keep rereading them and rereading them and going, wait, this means this, that means that. You have to take words out of the sentence. You gotta, maybe you read the last sentence first as if it's the first sentence. That's kind of strange. Sometimes I do that, to try. I mean, if you're like me and your mind just gets clouded just automatically, then this is good for you. To be told, okay, belonging to Boaz, who is of the family of Elimelech. The Bible often repeats itself. Often. One of the best ways to learn to read the Bible, wait, this is repeated from somewhere else. That's why I look up words so much. I don't do it because some people say the best way to study the Bible, get you a concordance. Whenever you see a word, look it up and see what it means everywhere else. I'm not sure why they tell you to do that. The reason I like to do that is to see how common that word shows up. If we look up reapers and it shows up a few times, okay, reaper is probably not that important in the Bible. Let's say we look up gleaned or filled and we go, wait, gleaned and filled shows up a lot. Reapers shows up a lot. They sometimes show up together. Gleaning, filled, reapers, ears of grain. If they show up a lot, which they do, you start to go, wait a minute. Maybe the Bible is about farming, or maybe an important thing in the Bible is farming, or maybe, let me see. Lots of people in the Bible had fields and gleaned and did wheat stuff. Maybe that's just the way the people in the Bible lived. Maybe the people in the Bible lived that way. Maybe it was an important activity in that part of the world. Where's the Bible set? In Israel, in the Near East. near Egypt, near the Mediterranean Sea. Maybe that's how the people lived back then. Maybe, I mean, so you start entering into the world of the Bible. You start getting out of the American mindset where you got cars, I want to say cars, automobiles. We got automobiles, grocery stores. You can walk to your refrigerator and get food. Instead, you think you got to walk with your own 2 feet to a field to get food. You don't have food in your refrigerator. You don't even have a refrigerator. Oh man, then you start thinking of other stuff. I got to walk everywhere. I never walk everywhere. Last time I walked somewhere, I was in the mall and I walked to another store. Who goes to the mall? If they're always farming and stuff, do they have time for school? Maybe. Do they have time for entertainment? Maybe. If they're, you start thinking of stuff like this. You're trying to get out of 21st century America, which is where I live. You're trying to get out of if you live in, say you live in South America and Chile, you're trying to get out of Chile in the year 2021 and into Israel in the Near East, across the Pacific Ocean, across Africa, into the Middle East in the year, whatever this is, 2000 BC. Wait, this is after Moses, 1000 BC, sometime around there. I could look up a timeline, You're trying to get into that mindset. 1000 BC, that's like 3,000 years ago, thousands of miles away. So, Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, wait, where did he come to? You could assume, since she's in the field of Boaz and she's gleaning after the reapers, that it's talking about he came and said to these reapers that are in this field, wait, the portion of the field belonging to Boaz. So he's talking to the reapers. Ruth is there. Reapers are in that field. Maybe those are the same. He came to his field. Ask yourself questions like that of the Bible. It's kind of like, duh, BJ, I know. Okay, the point is when you ask yourself questions, you look at it different ways. You go, yes, Boaz came from the field to his field, from Bethlehem to his field and said to his reapers, obviously. Okay, then you go, wait, what if they're not his reapers? So then you ask yourself questions. It's forcing yourself to realize, yeah, they are his reapers and it is his field. Then you've thought through it. Hey, thinking through it is awesome. It's awesome. The beginning, the fear of the wisdom is the beginning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Fear the Lord, you begin to have wisdom. God says, let us reason together, reason through this stuff, talk it through. Paul would often reason through stuff. He'd say, hey, let's reason through this. He would reason through it meticulously, very detailed. I don't want to reason through it. God reasons through stuff. Jesus reasoned through stuff. I want to be like Jesus and God. Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, may the Lord be with you. And they said to him, may the Lord bless you. Then Boaz said to his servant who was in charge of the reapers, whose young woman is this? Who do you think the young woman is? Why does he see a young woman? Is she standing there? Is there a lady there? Like he goes to the reapers, they're probably all dudes, probably all men, since men were the ones who worked in that society and women didn't. Why is there a woman there? You could assume, oh, the young woman is Ruth because we're talking about Ruth. Yeah, it's a good assumption. Is she there? Where is she? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't recognize her. She's from Moabite. It's from Moabite. She's new to town. Okay. The servant in charge of the, I'm just trying to think it through. Could be a rhetorical question. Maybe he knows exactly who she is. Maybe he's heard of her because everybody in town went, hey, it's back in the end of chapter 1. Hey, it's Naomi, hey, Naomi's back. Yay, Naomi. And in that case, they probably would have met Ruth. She probably would have told about Ruth. Maybe Boaz knows, hey, that's Ruth. But instead of saying that, but say, whose young woman is this? I don't know. Let's see. The servant in charge of the reapers replied, she is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab. And she said, so the servant is still talking. And she said, please let me glean and gather among the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and has remained from the morning until now. She has been sitting in the house for a little while. Then Boaz said to Ruth, so it was like Ruth standing there. Maybe he's in, quote unquote, the house over here, sitting in the resting hut, in the shelter, whatever it is, the shelter over here. Shelter. Maybe that's where Boaz is. I don't know. The story doesn't tell us, He's just kind of there. Then Boaz said to Ruth, maybe he went out to the field and was like, hey, maybe, maybe, who knows? Then Boaz said to Ruth, listen carefully, my daughter. Daughter? She's not his daughter. She's from Moab. He's of the line of Elimelech from Bethlehem. It's a phrase of endearment. Why would an Israelite call someone from Moab brother, sister, son, daughter? If God forbid I was enemies with Mexican people, I live near Mexico. God forbid, if I was enemies with Mexican people, everybody where I live, they despise Mexican people. It's written into our law, don't be friends with Mexicans. Well, then a Mexican from Mexico comes across the border and I see him and I'm like, hey, my brother, let me help you out. People will be like, BJ, it's a Mexican. You can't. If that was in the law. Thank goodness it's not in the law, Okay, but back then, as we've looked at before, Moabites in the law, there are things said like even to the 10th generation, don't let them be coming into the assembly of the Lord. Well, this could be past the 10th generation. I'm guessing 10th generation just means for a long time. That's my guess. That's my assumption. I'm not trying to say, well, I don't think it meant never let them. I'm not. There's a lot of things here. Let's look real quick. One second. Here we go. Generations. Search right there. Generations. The record of the generation. I knew that would come up. All right. Generations. The records of the generations. Yeah. Everlasting covenant. Okay, good. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants and after you throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant to be the God to you and to your descendants after you. Yep. God is going to establish his covenant with Abraham. And he says, I promise you and all your family that comes after you, your generations, your sons, your grandsons, your great and granddaughters, your great grandsons and granddaughters, your cousins, your great cousins, your grand cousins, or your nephews, your great nephews, your great great nephews, and he says all them people, all your generations for everlasting covenant. Abraham would have most likely heard that as his generations. I'm not of the Abraham generation. I'm an American living in the 21st century. I'm not a Hebrew living over there. But of course, God in the New Testament we look at, Paul says the promise was to Jesus Christ, technically, and spiritually, quote unquote, By faith, I'm a part of the generations. Okay. So sometimes theologically and such, you use terms loosely, maybe. If you want to read about that whole thing I said about Abraham and Jesus Christ generations, and I'm of him, it's in Galatians. Okay. Go read you some Galatians. But that's generations. That's not tense. It's not a number of generations. Let's see, throughout their generations. All right, generations of Ishmael. Keep going down here. Throughout your generations, you are to celebrate it as a permanent ordinance. We no longer, Jews do, but I, as a Christian, do not celebrate the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But there's your generations. Okay. Now, what am I looking for? It's down a little further. Hey, look at that. Exodus 20, verse 5. Full chapter. You shall not make for yourself an idol, or any likeness of what is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship the idol, nor serve the idol. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, inflicting the punishment of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. Third and fourth. So which one is it? The third or the fourth? Oh, so he skips the second generation. Oh no, inflicting punishment of the fathers on the children. Okay, so he says on the children, on the third and the fourth. So exactly 4. What if the dad serves an idol and then the third generation cuts every vestige of the idol off and says, no more, we don't want to serve idols, we're making a clean break? God will say, hey, God could relent from punishment. You love God, he could relent from it. The effects could still be there. The effects of idol worshiping that goes, the bad effects could affect you even though you're trying to do good, I guess. But showing favor to thousands, to those who love me, keep my commandments. And if we look at Exodus 20, so the verse in Deuteronomy that I've looked at a few times in this Ruth Bible study along says a Moabitess, and I think Ammonite, and Moabite and an Ammonite shall not enter your generation, shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, down to the 10th generation. What was I looking for? Exodus 20. One second. Moabite assembly. No Ammonite or Moabite may enter the assembly of the Lord. None of their descendants, even to the 10th generation, may ever enter the assembly of the Lord. Seems pretty strict. Ruth is a Moabite, or a Moabitess. It specifically says she's a female Moabite. She's a Moabite, she's female. Okay. You shall not make for yourself. Right here. But showing favor to thousands, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me, keep my commandments. But showing covenant faithfulness to 1,000 generations. Responding to the transgression of fathers by dealing with children to the 3rd and 4th generations of those who reject me, and showing covenant faithfulness to 1,000 generations of those who love me. Okay. Look at this. The ancestors' wickedness on the children of those who hate me, down to the 3rd and 4th generation. Idol worship could affect the children, even the sons, the grandsons, the great-grandsons, the great-great-grandkids, right? but showing love down to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandment. To 1,000 generations. The NIV is all the generations. 1,000 generations here in the biggest thought for thought translation, not word for word. NLT, for 1,000 generations on those who love me. So here you can see they're using the word generations, third and fourth generation. Using it kind of, okay, the third and why say third and fourth? Why not just say down to the fourth generation? If you want to be strictly literal, if you want to say kids, grandkids, grandkids, great grandkids, great grandkids. Okay, if you want to say to the great grand ancestors, to the fourth generation, why not just say NESB, super word for word, you shall not worship nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, inflicting the punishment of the fathers on the children to the fourth generation. Why even name the children? Why not just say I, inflicting punishment to the fourth generation of those who hate me? I mean, why the poetic kind of language? Poetic. Why the idiomatic language? Maybe why draw it out? Hey, dude, if you do bad, I'm not going to punish you. I'm going to punish your children, and then your children's children, and your children after that too. Like that's how we talk today. Sometimes even. Now, this is a law code. If I'm reading the police report, if I'm reading a law and it says, Mexicans, because I live near Mexico, you are not to love Mexicans. And this is the law. This is like constitutional law. So this is like lawmakers trying to get everything perfect. They got lawyers trying to make everything super detailed. There's no wiggle room when it comes to a law. Everything is super precise. No Mexicans, even to the great grandkids. That's all. It wouldn't go on. The grandkids, the third and the fourth generation of grandkids. It wouldn't say that. It's a law. So this is law. So even Israelites, even their thinking was so not abstract. It was so it used rhetorical language. I often say poetic language. It used kind of loose language so much that even in their laws, like this is what you will do, period. There's no wiggle room. It's even not literal. Instead of just saying to the children, to the third and fourth generations, love on me and the 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Okay. That's what, so even in their law, they use kind of loose language. That's why I assume no Ammonite or Moabite may enter the assembly of the Lord. None of their descendants, even to the 10th generation, may ever enter the assembly of the Lord. Now, just earlier than that, it does say, no one who's a man, 10th generation, none of his descendants, even to the 10th generation of anyone who is emasculated or has his male organ cut off, may enter the assembly of the Lord. Yikes. No Ammonite, even the 10th generation. No Ammonite may enter even to the 10th generation, because they did not meet you with food and water. Nevertheless, the Lord your God was unwilling. Okay, I thought I saw. Oh, you shall not loathe an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not loathe an Egyptian, because you are a stranger in his land. The sons of the third generation who are born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. So they got reasons why. Okay, so there is a distinct difference here. Third, he says, don't loathe them totally. So at least the third generation they can enter. But these dudes up here, not even the 10th generation. They're like, oh, that is pretty specific. Sounds pretty specific. I agree. Maybe Ruth is past 10 generations. Or showing favor to thousands, to those who love me, keep my commandments. Maybe Boaz, just trying to be like God. Just show love to her. And hey, this isn't the assembly of the Lord, as in like in the temple complex or in Moses' day, They just had a tabernacle. And then they would come together and eat food for feasts, not in the tabernacle necessarily, but they would do the sacrifices at the tabernacle. Yes, it's a big walled tent, like tent walls, no ceiling, and then inside the tent walls there's an actual tent with a ceiling that only the priests and such went into. You would give your sacrifices to the priests. They would go into the non-ceiling tent wall and do a sacrifice. I think regular Israelites could go in there, but it wasn't very big, you know. The walled and ceiling tent, the actual tabernacle, that was too small for many people to go, and only priests went in there. So you would get together and have feasts in or around the tabernacle, you know, different times of the year and such. The assembly of the Lord, whenever the people of God's people came together, you know. But also, I have to do a Bible study along on this. If you want to become, if a Moabite or a stranger or somebody wants to become an Israelite, they can actually do that. It wasn't about ethnicity or race. It was about religion. So whenever it says they did not meet you with food or water on the way, you know, it's not saying let's be racist. It's saying they weren't kind, they weren't helpful. If everything's religious, in other words, they didn't love me. It's religious, right? God's saying you don't help them, they didn't help you. But there's other, like I said, do a Bible study along other places in the law. But if they want to become an Israelite, you can help them. If they come into your land as a stranger, you can help them. A sojourner, it says. You can't enter the assembly of the Lord down to the 10th generation unless they become an Israelite. But you still be kind to them. You still love them. You still help them out. We'll have to go through all the Old Testament books. This is difficult because it sounds like BJ, you're saying God excludes people because their ancestors didn't help them. You know, I think we've talked a lot about how everything back then in their mind were ancestors. If your ancestors, you know, everything's through the husband. If the ancestors did this or that in the past, you would hate them today. God is breaking through that, and he has done so with someone like Boaz. He calls a Moabite his daughter. There must be something to this. But I wanted to get down to these verses down here. So we're going to keep going. It's strange whenever God comes into people's lives and works through them where they're at. Ancient peoples said, wait, you're from this city? Oh, well, then I can't be friends with you. That's just the way it was. God comes to people and works with them where they're at, tells them the Moabites down to the 10th generation. But in other places said, hey, you were strangers in a strange land in Israel. In Egypt. You were strangers in Egypt. You know what it was like. Don't neglect the stranger. There must be a difference in neglecting a stranger and not letting someone come to the assembly of the Lord because of something they did bad to you in the past. There's got to be a difference. God's not going to contradict himself, you know. Okay. Then Boaz said to Ruth, listen carefully, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field. Remember, it says she happened upon the field belonging to Boaz. Okay. Do not go to glean in another field. Furthermore, do not go on from this one, but join my young women here. Like I said, the Bible repeats itself a lot. Do not glean another field. Do not go on from this one. If you went from this one, you'd glean another. Oh, he's saying never leave my field ever. I'm not going to tell her that. Like you have to stay here day and night. Build your house in my field. You're going to start living in my field. No, against. But join my young women here. So he's got young women. So he's already, yeah, good. Okay. I'm guessing they're his servants. Maybe there are other people like Ruth who came to glean, and he's protecting them also. Maybe. Who knows? Okay. Keep your eyes on the field which they reap, the young women, and go after them. Indeed, I have ordered these servants not to touch you. When you are thirsty, go to the water jars and drink from what the servants draw. It's good protection. Good protection. Women were very vulnerable back then. Then she fell on her face. That would hurt. Bowing to the ground. Okay. Casting herself prostrate upon the ground. At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. Okay, she fell face down, bowed to the ground. Okay. Oh, Ruth fell at his feet and thanked him warmly. There we go. The very paraphrased over here. Said to Boaz, why have I found favor in your sight that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? Now remember what we read. Because they did not meet you with food and water on the way when you came out of Egypt. Okay. That's why you neglect them to the 10th generation or whatever it is. Look at this. Only to the 10th generation. You shall never seek their peace or their prosperity all your days. It can't be literal. Never. I mean, to the 10th generation isn't never. I mean, look. The Egyptians and the Edomites also did really bad things to Israel. But hey, God right here says, because you were a stranger in their land. I mean, it can't be literal, never, So over here, they did not meet you with food and water. They hired against you, Balaam, son of Beor. Okay. Over here, Boaz replied, okay, Ruth said to him, why have I found favor in your sight that you should take notice of me since I'm a foreigner? Boaz replied to her, all that you have done for your mother-in-law. Wait a minute. I thought the Moabites in the past did not meet them with food and water. They hired against you Balaam, the son of Beor, which was a bad deal. But he's saying, you, a Moabite, all that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband has been fully reported to me. So her ancestors did bad stuff, but all that she has done has been reported to him. I'm guessing it's good stuff. How you left your father and your mother in the land of your birth and came to a people that you did not previously know. Okay. You forsake your father and mother. That's just like Jesus says in the New Testament. Anyone who loves father and mother more than me, does not forsake them, cannot be my disciple. And love more. She forsook her father and mother, the land of her birth, came here. Came to a people that you did not previously know. All you've done for your mother-in-law. So, I mean, she's reversing it. She was a bad person. Now she's being a good person, and they like it. And Boaz is saying, hey, that's fine. That's okay. Let's see. Ebed Melech. What in the world is Ebed? Right here. But Ebed Melech, the Ethiopian, a eunuch, while Ebed was in the king's palace, heard that they had put Jeremiah in the cistern. They dropped Jeremiah in the cisterns. Jeremiah is going to die. Okay. A cistern is a huge, picture a giant vessel, a huge like water vessel when you drink out of, but humongous. You could fit like multiple people into. Maybe it's a naturally cut out of the rock. Water comes up into it. You put water in it. What if you get water, hey, I'm thirsty. Let's go to a cistern, draw some water. What if you get dropped into one? You could drown, I guess. Let's see. please have this man put to death, since he is discouraging the men of war. Okay. Zedekiah said, behold, he is in your hands. So they took Jeremiah and threw him into the cistern of Malchijah. Elijah, maybe Malchijah, the king's son. So they threw him into a cistern. Now in the cistern there was no water, but only mud, and Jeremiah sank into the mud. But Ebed-Melech, the Ethiopian, whom has been against Israel before, Ethiopians haven't always had the best relationship with Israel. Not necessarily a bad one, not a good one. A eunuch, while he was in the king's palace, heard they had put Jeremiah in the cistern. Now the king was sitting at the gate of Benjamin. Ebed-Melech went out from the king's palace and spoke to the king, saying, my lord the king, these men have acted wickedly in all that they have done to Jeremiah, the prophet whom they have thrown into the cistern. He will die right where he is because of the famine, for there's no more bread in the city. Then the king commanded Ebed-Melech, the Ethiopian, commanded him to go and take 30 men from here under your authority and bring Jeremiah the prophet up from the cistern before he dies. All right. So Ebed-Melech, an Ethiopian, does good. Full chapter, 39:16. Go and speak to Ebed-Melech the Ethiopian, saying, this is what the Lord of armies, the God of Israel, says, behold, I'm going to bring my word. So that was chapter 38. This is chapter 39. So now we're in the next chapter. This is what the God of Israel says. Go and speak to Ebed-Melech. This is what the Lord of armies, okay? Behold, I am going to bring my words on this city for disaster, not for prosperity. They will take my words will take place before you, Ebed-Melech, on that day, but I will save you, Ebed-Melech, on that day. You will not be handed over to the men of whom you are afraid. Assuredly, I will rescue you. You will not fall by the sword. But instead, Ebed-Melech, you're not going to fall by the sword. Disaster, not prosperity, is going to come on this city for disaster. But I will save you on that day. You will have your own life as plunder because you've trusted me. Look at that. Rahab, book of James. They're going to talk about Rahab. Full chapter. The scripture was fulfilled, which it says, Abraham believed in God and he was credited him as righteousness, and Abraham was called a friend of God. Heck yeah, man. Our father Abraham, not justified by works when he offered up his son of Isaac on the altar. Hey, do good works. Gotta love you. Look at that. You're saved by faith, saved by works. A saved person will do works. So you get saved, you're like, thank you, God. And then you die right there. You had no time to do good works. Don't worry. God's not going to be like, if you had lived 10 seconds later and given this granny a walk across the road and then died, then I'd have said, but since you had no time to do good works, yeah, that's silly. Abraham, he continuously grew in good works. He did a lot of bad works. God didn't like unjustify him for doing bad works, but he did more and more good works, Yeah. Your life should be, when you see more and more good works, hey, God, you're doing good. In the same way, was Rahab the prostitute not justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? Rahab the prostitute was not justified by works also. Okay, it's a rhetorical question. You see, a person is justified by works, not by faith alone. In the same way, was Rahab the prostitute not justified by works also when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? So her receiving the messenger was the works that justified her. She had faith in the God of Israel. Okay. She had faith in the God of Israel. She did good works. She's justified. Let's see. Rahab shelters spies. Joshua the son of Nun sent 2 Israel men as spies secretly, saying, "Go view the land, especially Jericho." Okay. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab, and they rested there. But it was told to the king of Jericho, saying, "Behold, men from the sons of Israel have come here tonight to spy out the land." And the king of Jericho sent word to Rahab, saying, "Bring out those men who have come to you." What's she going to do? So the men from Israel who are going to spy out the land, they stay the night at a prostitute's house? What? The king says, uh-oh. King of Jericho sent word to Rahab, "Bring out the men." But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. Why would she do that? She said, "Yes, the men came to me." Oh, she said to the king, okay. "Yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they were from. It came about when it was time to shut the gate at dark that the men went out." Wait a minute. Hidden them. The woman, Rahab, took the 2 men and hid them. So she's lying. She's saying, "Hey, king," she's tricking the king. "The men went out. I do not know where they went. Pursue them quickly." Okay. Now, before the spies lay down, she came up to the roof and said to them, "I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have been despaired because of you." So they're going to spy out the land so they can take it. These 2 men who Joshua's son of Nun sent 2 men. They're going to spy out Jericho so they can go up against it in battle and defeat it. These are the people God is saying, "You're going to go in this land and you're going to destroy everybody I tell you to destroy, because their religion is bad, not good for the earth." Okay. Joshua is being told, "You are going to be my agent for judgment." The people who Rahab lives amongst are being judged. Rahab should be judged. Okay. That's what Joshua's told. But Rahab, who is part of the religion that's being judged, living amongst the people who's going to be judged, these are some bad folk. This Rahab says, "I know the Lord has given you the land." Yep. "The terror of you has fallen on us. All the inhabitants of the land have despaired because of you." So evidently, all the people, the land that Joshua's going to take, they're scared. "We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea because when you came out of Egypt. What you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites. So the land heard about the Red Sea being dried up. They heard that Israel beat up Sihon and Og, the kings. You utterly destroyed them. Okay. We heard these reports. Our hearts melted in us. No courage remained in us any longer because of you. For," what does Rahab say? "For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven and above, and on earth below." She hid the spies. She accepted them into her house, even though they're foreigners, gonna destroy her religion. She's of a different religion. She accepted people of a separate religion. She accepted people that are going to hurt them and beat them up. Okay. She right here says, "We're scared to death, but he is God in heaven and on earth below." My God's, my religion. No, he is. She's accepting Yahweh as God. "Now then, please swear to me by the Lord, since I've dealt kindly with you, that you will deal kindly with my father's household, and give me a pledge of truth, and spare my father and my mother, my brothers and sisters, all who belong to me, and save our lives from death. Please, we've done kindness to you. Please save us." So the men said to her, "Our life for your life, if you do not tell us business of ours. It shall come about when the Lord gives us the land, we will deal kindly and faithfully with you." Okay. Rahab the prostitute, okay, when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way, she was part of the people who are going to be destroyed. They were like, we'll deal kindly with you. She was saved. Right here, James, she was saved. There are places in the New in the Old Testament, right after they took Jericho, this guy named Achan gets judged for doing something bad. He's an Israelite. He does something bad, he gets judged right after Jericho. It does not say anything about Rahab. God doesn't say to Joshua, they made a deal and it was a bad deal. You shouldn't have done it. Now I'm going to have to judge Rahab. No. In fact, Rahab would say, if we're going to be like God, we're going to not say the law says X, Y, and Z to the 10th generation. Yeah, Boaz, okay? All that you have done for your mother-in-law after your death of your husband has been fully reported to me. Rahab did good stuff. Ebed-Melech did good stuff. How you left your father and your mother and the land of your birth. Rahab, she pretty much did. Then, Ebed-Melech, Rahab's a better example. Rahab left the father, okay, and came to a people you did not previously know. Rahab didn't know them, okay. May the Lord reward your work. May your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. That's what Rahab did. Boaz is just trying to be like God. That's all. Pretty cool, huh? Man, I think so. I think Boaz is trying to be like God. He's a man from, he's talking, look up here. Remember? May the Lord be with you. May the Lord bless you. So even his servants are like, may the Lord bless. So he's got like his own little church service. And the Methodist church, we say, may the Lord be with you. And also with you. We lift up our hearts. We lift them up to the Lord. We repeat that. A lot of churches, they say, in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. And then the people repeat, amen. Okay. May the Lord be with, and may the Lord bless you. Evidently the servants are happy, probably. They're talking about, maybe they're scared to death. It doesn't say that. Everything that we could see, like later, like, look, he's already got women with him. He seems like an okay guy. And we'll discover that later, that yeah, he's a pretty okay guy. He gives her lots of food and grain. Chapter 4 is really cool in that way. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's sign language for 3, for 4. That's like so confusing. 3, 4, 3, 4. Why not just 3, 4? That's W, I guess. Maybe that's sorry, guys. All right. So Boaz, pretty good guy, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Okay. Wings is a very common idiom. Let's look at this. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians. God's talking to the people. How I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Carried you on eagle's wings. You're sitting on an eagle's wing. What? Eagles aren't that big. It just means safely, because eagles are up in the air. Probably means safely. Probably means swiftly. I brought you out quickly. That's probably what it means. Wings, 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 wings. All right. May the Lord reward you. Ruth 2:12. Under whose wings you have come to take. Okay. He rode on a cherub and flew. That is God. He appeared on the wings of the wind. So God. Don't worry, we'll find what I'm looking for, I promise. Wings of the cherubim. Okay, good. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. With the pinion, that means and feathers of love. I think a pinion is not a feather, or maybe it's a claw. Here we go. How precious is your mercy, God. And the sons of mankind take refuge in the shadow of your wings. Psalm 17:8. Keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in keep me the apple of the eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings. Okay, be gracious to me, God, be gracious to me, for my soul takes refuge in you, and in the shadow of your wings I will take refuge until destruction passes by. Let me dwell in the tent forever. Let me take refuge in the shelter of your wings. All right, but a pretty cool one. It even extends to Matthew and Luke. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who have been sent to her. Yeah, it's sad, but how often I wanted to gather your children together the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were unwilling. I wanted to gather you under my wings, but you, Jerusalem, were unwilling. Boaz says, may the Lord reward you for your work, and may your wages be full from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. We're told, Jesus says, Israel, you didn't take refuge under my wings. But yes, Rahab, Ruth, and Moabite took refuge under God's wings. Pretty cool. Then she said, I have found favor in your sight, my Lord, for you have comforted me and indeed have spoken kindly to your servant, though I am not like one of your female servants. Again, she's a foreigner. Just pointing that out. Over and over again in this chapter, it says, Ruth the Moabite has said, I'm going to go there. And it tells us Boaz is from Ebed Melech. From Melech. Sorry, guys. Elimelech. Ebed Melech is the Ethiopian in Jeremiah's day. Okay. Elimelech. A family of Elimelech, the Bethlehemite. Ruth, the Moabite. So it keeps telling us the difference. This whole thing is about how Moab, she's from Moab, she comes to Israel. I am not like one of your female servants. Yeah. I'm a Moabite. And at mealtime, Boaz said to her, come here, that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar. A Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. During the feasts, they would eat together. Okay. Come here that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar. So she sat beside the reapers. They're eating together. Now, this isn't a feast, I admit, but they are eating together, which is something you just don't do with enemies. He served her roasted grain, and she ate and was satisfied and had some left. That's good. So, he's really laying it on thick. This is a foreigner, a Moabite. And he's like eating with her. Hey, come, eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread. And this is very, let me see. Verse 2:12. Bread and dip your piece of bread. Okay. Mark 14:20. Excuse me. Now the Passover and festival of unleavened bread was 2 days away. There's the feast. Okay. On the first day of unleavened bread, where do you want us to go and prepare the Passover for you to eat? So this is Jesus' disciples. Okay. The Passover, book of Mark is a biography about Jesus. Okay. It tells us that the Passover of unleavened bread was new. Okay. The disciples are like, where do you want us to go and prepare for you to eat the Passover? While they were eating, he took some bread. After blessing it, broke, gave thanks. So they're eating. Okay. All right, here we go. When it was evening, as they were reclining at the, okay, it was evening, he came with the 12. And as they were reclining at the table and eating, Jesus said, truly I say that one of you will betray me. One who is eating with me. They're at a Jewish Passover. This is as intimate as it gets. Foreigners ain't doing this. Only Israelites. If you were an Israelite, if you were a foreigner ethnically and became an Israelite, you could, religiously, you could eat the Passover. Okay? This was like Israelites only. This is like very intimate and close. When he was eating with me, will betray me. They began to be grieved and say to him one by one, surely not I. But he said to them, it is one of the 12, the one who dips bread with me in the bowl. Very intimate, very close. Says the same thing in the book of John there. The man is the one whom I shall dip the piece of bread and give it to him. Okay, give it to Judas Iscariot. Here's an interesting one. Table, enemies. Everybody's favorite Psalm, Psalm 23. Read full chapter. The Lord is my shepherd. I will not be in need. I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. I will not be in need. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Everybody knows this psalm, right? Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You just don't eat with enemies. Just not what you did, So I'm trying to think in my head where it says like they're enemies. We can't eat with them. Do not eat. I believe therefore to this day the sons of Israel do not eat the tendon of the hip which is on the side. Oh, okay. Do not eat any of it raw. I think in 1 Corinthians. Not eat its fruit. Do not know that those who perform sacred services eat the food of the temple. Do you not know that those who perform sacred services eat the food of the temple? So eating food, sacred services, related. Everything was religious back then. Everything. Today we're like, hey, let's eat some food so we can hurry up and go to church. Back then it would have been like, hey, let's do church. And then they start eating food. Would they call it church? I don't know. The assembly. Right? Those who attend regularly at the altar have their share from the altar. Okay, so they, yeah. When you sacrifice food, the priest would then eat the food. So if you say this is meat sacrificed to idols, don't eat it for the sake of the one who informed you and for the sake of conscience. The food was sacrificed to an idol, and then the meat got sold and then the food got sold in the market, and you were like, hey, and you're eating this, and somebody says that was sacrificed to an idol. It's fine, it's just food, but for that person, don't eat it. Okay, I won't eat it. You could have a discussion with them. Why not? Do not have houses in which to eat. Oh, look at this one. Yeah, here we go. Full chapter. This is the New Testament after Paul. Okay, after Paul, after Jesus. Paul's doing everything. Okay, Paul is like a big guy. So we're still talking about they're eating together here. Okay, everything's religious, even in the New Testament. Let's see, the Lord's Supper. Okay, now in giving this next instruction, I do not praise you, Because you come together not for the better, but for worse. You come together not for the better, but for worse. Up here, he was talking about proper ways to worship God, proper ways to come together. In chapter 12, he will talk about more proper ways to worship God when you come together as assembly. So here, he's talking about when you come together to worship God. Okay. Like when you hold a sacred assembly, like we do Sunday morning church. Okay. So when they come together, giving this instruction, because when you come together, not for better, but for worse. Man, if I said, when you go to church on Sunday morning, you guys, it's not good. In fact, you're hurting things. Oh, people will be like, what? Hey, don't hold that Bible study because you're getting worse. Oh, for in the first place, when you come together as a church, I hear that divisions exist among you. And in part, I believe it. For these also have to be factions. For there also have to be factions among you. So those who are approved may become evident among you. That's just kind of common sense. There are going to be separations so we can, see who the good people are. Okay. Therefore, when you come together, it is not to eat the Lord's Supper. It's not. For when you eat, each one of you takes his own supper. Oh, okay. So for when you do eat, each one of you takes his own supper first. So he's talking about them coming together and eating. Ruth and Boaz, they're not coming together for a religious thing, but here it's talking about come together religious and eating. I hear that divisions exist among you. When you come together, not for better, but for worse. Okay. Therefore, when you come together as a church, it's not to eat the Lord's Supper. For when you do eat, each one of you partakes his own supper first. One goes hungry while another gets drunk. What? Do you not have houses in which to eat and drink? Or do you despise the church of God and shame those who have nothing? What am I to say to you? Shall I praise you in this? In this I do not praise you. Then he goes to tell them about the Lord's Supper. Therefore, whoever eats the bread and drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy way shall be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. So here he's being very rhetorical. Okay. When you come together, look, you're coming together and for worse. You're not coming together to eat the Lord's Supper. In fact, when you come together to eat the Lord's Supper, instead, you're just eating your own supper. You're eating and you're getting drunk and you're letting another go hungry. Look, shame those who have nothing. The poor people, you're just letting them have nothing when you come together to eat. Okay? When they came together, they would eat, it seems. If he says you have your own houses in which to eat and drink, why would he say when you're coming together, you're eating and not letting the poor people eat? Those who have nothing. Another gets drunk, one goes hungry. So look, you do have, eat your food at home and enjoy it. When you come together in an assembly, you also eat, but it's for religious purposes. The Lord's Supper. It's not to eat all the food at the religious gathering so that then the poor people can't eat. It's definitely not to be getting drunk. Come on. It's a religious thing. It's a sacred thing. Okay? You're coming together. There's no male or female, Greek or Jew, slave or free, rich or poor. Jesus talks about the rich and the poor. James talks about the rich and the poor. In Christ, there is no rich and poor. There is no Moabite or Israelite. They came together to eat. She sat beside the reapers, and he served her roasted grain. He serves her. She's his servant, and he serves her. She ate and was satisfied and had some left. Now, sounds like BJ, you're getting into theology. I'm trying not to get into theology. Again, I'm trying to get into the mindset of the ancient person. If the mindset of the ancient person was, We don't like foreigners. God, in fact, in the law told us not to like foreigners. Hey, foreigner, come here and let me treat you kindly. What in the world? Wait, we're not supposed to like foreigners? Hey, you're a foreigner. Come here and I'm going to treat you nicely. You're a foreigner and you've done good to everybody. Let's eat together and let me serve you. Okay, why is that a big deal? Why is it telling us that? Why is it using the language, that you may eat of the bread and dip your piece of bread in the vinegar? That's almost taken verbatim and put in the book of Mark that we looked at. Why would it do that? Is the New Testament doesn't say it's using the Old Testament language. It doesn't tell us that, but it is using it. Like I'm pointing out, this is the mindset of the people. This is the way they thought. This is them eating together as often around sacred stuff. She is a Moabitess. He is an Israelite. Everything was sacred to the Israelites, was supposed to be. Everything was supposed to be sacred all the time. And here, eating. Paul, an Israelite, is trying to get the Greek Corinthian church, the people from the city of Corinth in Greece. They're not Israelites, obviously. They're Greeks. Paul is trying to get them to be like Israelites, come together and eat. That's just the way it was. Everything was religious to them. Everything was under God. When she got up to glean, Boaz commanded. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and call this one closed, okay? Stop share. I'm going to go ahead and call this one. It might not be as long as an hour and 15. I did hit record and then I hit stop and I was testing my microphone for a few minutes. So it might be a little less, but that's okay. All right, guys. Go ahead and let you go for today. I hope we got into the mindset of the ancient people. They didn't like the foreigners, didn't like each other, whether Israelites or Moabites or Edomites. Edomites didn't like Moabites, Ethiopians didn't like Egyptians. And that was in the Israelites' minds. You see my little tuft of hair going? There you go. There. Sorry, guys. I get distracted by myself. It was in their minds. Is the Israelites' minds. Their law from God even reflected it. God was like, hey, I'm meeting you where you're at. But then people seemingly break God's law, you would think. And God's okay with it. There must be something more going on, because they're not going to just outright say, I'm breaking the law, Lord, in order to love you. There must be room for you to love your enemies. And that's what Boaz is doing here. The mindset of an ancient Israelite would be much like the culture, but one who is sanctified will love his enemies. Seems like Boaz is sanctified. I hope you can understand this. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Maybe Boaz is supposed to be some kind of ancient example for that for us. Boaz is acting like Christ. Maybe we're supposed to be that way. Oh yeah, let's pray real quick. Lord God, thank you very much for these wonderful lessons you teach us. All I'm trying to do is study the Bible, and I get these awesome, wonderful lessons. It's so good, Lord. Thank you very much for all this and for more, for the abundant mercy that I don't deserve. I should be falling on my face and saying, God, I'm just a foreigner, but you love me. And you're letting me be in your field, Lord. Greening with your reapers, you're taking care of me, Lord. Yeah, to use language from your word, Lord God, to tell you how much I love you and I'm appreciative of you, how awesome you are. Thank you for sending your son to die on behalf of us so we may live on behalf of you. Yeah. In your name we pray. Amen. See you guys in the next Bible study along.